last been on here and we did an interview and people got a chance to watch it. Now we wanted to bring him back on so he can answer some questions, and we'll just continue to roll with his story and while we wait for people to come in and join questions and stuff. And Philip, I do appreciate you coming on today, man. How you doing?
Man, I'm wonderful, man. Happy Mother's Day to everybody out there. And Adrian, it's good to see you again. And I've been following you since I've met you, and I really enjoy what you're doing, man. So congratulations on watching your followers grow, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate you being able to take out some time today and continuing to follow my show and stuff because with you I really clicked because I really like the redemption aspect of your story. Yeah, that you got the whole criminal past, mafia stories. People love to hear that kind of stuff, and I don't know, all together, I just pretty much clicked with you pretty well. So I don't know, man. I just have always thought you've been pretty genuine about your turnaround and your redemption aspect of life, and just really being a really really big follower in the Lord and stuff like that, man. So I'm that's how why I don't know, I've always connected to you, man, because I'm trying to get more into that myself.
All praise and glory goes to my Lord and Savior, man, because if it wasn't for him and due to the power of prayers from other people, nothing I did on my own, I'm a dead man for sure.
Yeah. Well, oh, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, just prayer. I do a lot here in my community. Law enforcement. I pray for these guys when I have coffee with the sheriff in our town. When before that would have never happened in my life. So
No.
it's neat to have fellowship with them, and they ask questions, and I'll ask questions, and it's pretty different. Lord's open. My life is completely turned around. So it's just I'm blessed to be here. So
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, Philip. Do you want to give the viewers that haven't seen your interview that we've done in the past, just like a brief little background on who you are, where you grew up with, and what crime you were attached to, and a couple organizations you could talk about and stuff like that?
sure. I hit the streets at the age of 8 due to the chaos in my home. My father, he was a Marine Corps vet. He had gone to Vietnam. I was born when he got out, and I'm the oldest of 6 kids. And he wasn't quite prepared to come home. He was sent there to die, and that didn't happen. So he had a lot of stuff messing with his mentee, and he just drinking a lot, and just a lot of anger and a lot of depression. And he used to just throw some tantrums, not picking on my pops, but he just was in a real bad place. So if pops is in a bad place, we're all in a bad place.
Right.
And hit the streets, those were my friends who we played outside with, who we ran around with. And in my neighborhood, there was a gang called the Warlords. And every city has its inner city,
Right.
And I was in Denver, and people think of Denver, and how could there be anything tough in Denver? Like I said, every city has its inner city, and I was in the Mile High City, and there were many street gangs when I grew up. It was different than what it is now, and they were our pals. If you were born, some of you don't know, if you were born in a certain neighborhood and you grew up with those guys in your neighborhood, you became part of what they were. I had influences on both sides of the family. On my mother's side was some Hell's Angel influence, some biker group. On my dad's side, there's Sons of Silence. And so I grew up watching all these guys, and it was an everyday thing to see them ride down the street, or we'd be in the alleyways, and then somebody's garage would be open, they'd be jamming out, and we'd go to the different, almost like concerts all the way down.
Yeah. I'll go ahead.
And running with those guys, we got into some mischievous stuff. We did a lot of criminal mischief stuff, broke windows, threw eggs at cop cars, and graffitied a lot of things. And that graduated from there, or it led into bigger crimes. I became a member of the Warlords. We were robbing at a higher level, doing a lot of carjacking and things like that. And from the streets, I ended up robbing the wrong guy, let's just say. A man named John Giovanni. Everybody knew him, Big John. And I didn't know anything about Mafia or anything about that life. I used to like to collect football cards and baseball cards when we was little, and I just didn't like paying for them. So we went into the strip mall one time, and I didn't pay attention to the signs. I didn't really care what they said, but now that I remember, it was like Giovanni's Supermarket, Giovanni's Bakery, Giovanni's Hardware Store, Giovanni's Restaurant. So somebody named Giovanni must own this whole thing. And we was in his supermarket, and my buddies, we rode our bicycles there. My buddies were over there distracting the clerks, asking questions. And it was my turn to snag that time, so I was down on the floor stuffing football cards and everything in my socks and in my pockets and wherever I could. And this big voice comes out over my shoulder, and he says, hey boy, what are you doing down there? Are you stealing? And I was like, you mind your own business, old man. And he said, my business. And he starts running at me. He's a big guy, man.
You pissed him off.
I'm 12, 13 years old maybe, and he's had to be, I don't know, 6'4", maybe 400 and some pounds and some change, and he was a big man. And he came running at me, and I go, guys, we've been made. So we beat feet, get out there, jump on our bicycles, and we're riding out the parking lot. And I turn around, and I remember him. He makes it to probably out the door to the edge of the sidewalk, and he's huffing and puffing. And I remember laughing and looking back at him. I said, you'd never catch me, you fat bastard. And we took off. I didn't think nothing of it. We did that all the time. About a year goes by. I go from junior high to high school. I got to go to another high school. And my route to school happened to be right through that strip mall. And usually the warlords would pick us up. They come on there in their cars, and they come pick up the guys who we belong to, and we would leave with them. One particular time, I just had to walk home. I don't know what happened or something. They didn't come. Something happened, and I just happened to walk home. And I was walking down that same strip mall, and I remember going in front of, the bakery, and they had all these sweet looking, it's eye candy, all the
Right.
pastries, and I could smell it. And I was like, man, this stuff looked good. And jelly donuts. And I start to go past the restaurant, and then bam, somebody grabs me, yanks me out of my shoes, runs me through this restaurant, clear down the back. The tables are flat. I'm going backwards. He's got me right here in the chest. And I go in the back, and he slammed up against the wall a couple times, and boom, hits me in the face and starts knocking me around. And I'm like, what's going on? And he grabs up, and this tells you the mentality of these guys.
Right.
Says, I'll never catch you, you fat bastard. That's what you said to me. This was a year ago. I didn't even remember. I was like, oh no, man, I'm sorry. And his face was so big and ugly. I remember who he was. And he goes, he just slapping me around. And he goes, so I go, what are you gonna do, man? You're gonna call the cops on me, man? And he starts laughing. He goes, you think the cops are gonna pay me back all the money you've been stealing from me? No, here's what you're gonna do. I ain't calling the cops. You're gonna go home. You're gonna tell your father what you did, and you're gonna go pick up a white shirt, a black pair of pants, and you're gonna be here tomorrow. And you're gonna work for me. You're gonna pay me every penny back, you little punk. Get out of here. And I'm like, okay, yes, sir. I'll leave. And I run out the store, and I beat feet home, man. And I never told my dad nothing. I went the long way home next time. I didn't go to that guy's mall, and I thought, it'll pass, man. I just won't go there no more. I come home one night. I'm out partying with my friends, and I walk in the door, going to my bedroom. Man, my heart drops. On my bed, there lays a white shirt and a black pair of pants, and my dad busts in. Boom! Boy, and he's hit me on the head. I don't know what you did, but I know who you did it to. You will be at work tomorrow. And I went to work for John Giovanni.
That just shows you, like, how much influence or whatever they may have had. Like, he was able to find your father knew who he was and everything, and, like, he he
Yeah,
caught up to you, man.
my dad wasn't no punk, so
Yeah,
whoever scared him enough to tell him your boy's coming here must have been a pretty important guy.
yeah. Well, we got Christopher here. He, said, "Good morning, gentlemen. Greetings from Fargo, North Dakota." Well, thank you, Christopher. Thank you for tuning in this morning.
Salute, Christopher.
While you were telling the story, he said, "Talk about a big whoops."
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, I didn't know back then what Mafia was and who these guys were. And in that restaurant changed my life. It's That was my first taste of the Mafia. He would, Big John, pretty unique. He would sit at his table, and nobody sat at John's table. Nobody. I would watch. He had a couple of guys would come in. You'd probably call them good fellas now, but a couple of guys that come in and they were always dressed in nice suits. John wore the same thing, a pair of slacks, and he wore a white shirt, and he had a big cigar. He had big bracelets, and he sat and he'd read the newspaper and smoke that cigar over and over and drink his coffee. And these guys would come in and visit with him. But I noticed every single time they come and talk with him, they talked to none of the staff, nobody else, but they would sit adjacent to his table. They would never sit at his table. It was like one was looking out for watching his back, and he would sit at a table right over here. And then right behind him, across from him, but at the next table, the other guy would sit. And they would converse, and they would come in every once in a while. And this one particular time, they had come in, and the first time I'd ever seen them bring somebody. Now, I had been working at the restaurant probably about a year, and John had then, a lot had happened. John had kind of, he became a father figure to me. You know, I won't go into all of that unless you want to, but he was watching me and everything that I would do. Like, for instance, one time we're sitting in the back, and John, he had just had a way of conversing with you that took forever. He was very slow. He walked slow. He talks slow, and he comes in the back one time and he called me. He never called me by my full name, Philip. He would always call me by my middle name, Anthony, and that's where he picked up Little Anthony. And he'd say, "Hey, Little Anthony, you got any brothers?" I'd say, "Yeah, Mr. G, I got 3 brothers. Their names are," and he would walk away and wouldn't let me finish the sentence. And then the next day he would walk in and say, "Hey, Little Anthony, what's your brother's names?" And I would tell him the names, and then he'd say, and he would leave. The next day, "Hey, Little Anthony, you got any sisters?" "Yeah, John, I got 2 sisters," and he'd walk away. The next day, I mean, it took a week to have a complete sentence with this guy, and he would come in the next day. "Well, how many sisters you got?" And that was John, just about on everything.
What do you think his purpose was for doing that?
I don't recall, but he would digest information all day. And that goes back. I've started to learn like the mentality of what these guys were thinking. And it didn't dawn on me till later on what could have really happened to me. And he got to where he would send me home with pizzas for my brothers and sisters, big boxes of spaghetti, pasta, and gravy, and send it all home with me. We weren't a well-to-do family. My dad was in between jobs and just having a tough time. And in the back, when we're in the back one day, he came up and he said, "Hey, Little Anthony," during one of our conversations, he says, "How you doing in school?" And I was like, "Oh, crap, nobody's ever asked me that question before." That wasn't a conversation that happened in my house. My dad was like, "They got to get them before they get you, simplify. Don't let nobody mess with you. Don't let nobody beat you up." Back before this time, when I was real little, like at 8 years old, I was like 6 years old. I was going into preschool, kindergarten, and I had bad vision, so I had to wear glasses at an early age. And by the time I was in the 3rd grade, man, they were Coke bottles. So I fought a lot anyways. And but he would always tell me, you're small, you're skinny, you got glasses, they're going to pick on you. So your first day at school, somebody walks up to you and they want to be nice to you, don't let them, punch them in the face. That's what you do. And I was like, so going to kindergarten my first time was like, "Oh, I'm going to war." It wasn't, and I did what he said to do, and I did it throughout my life. He had always instilled fear, and it was get them before they get you. And throughout, he's that way to this day. So there was no talk of college and what are you going to do when you graduate. I'm going to be a gangster, man. I'm going to be one of the gang leaders over here. I might be part of the Hells Angels someday. I might, that was my thinking. So the warlords came along and that all went through my life. Well, John asked me that one day, "How you doing in school?" So I was shocked. And I said, "Well, I go." He goes, well, I wanted my question. How are you doing in school? I said, man, I'm doing all right. I get good grades. And he says, yeah, come here. Boom. And he backhands me. He goes, don't you ever freaking lie to me. You're failing science. You're failing social studies. You're failing. Who fails gym? And I'm like, man.
He's pissed. Oh, go ahead.
I lost you there.
Oh, I just said, yeah, he was pissed, but he showed that he cared, right?
That's what got me. You could have slapped me till I bled and my nose broke. The fact that somebody asked me that took me, and that he was giving me food to give to my brothers and sisters. Firecracker Day came along, 4th of July. He would make fireworks out of shotgun shells for me, and he had all these neat little things he would do. So I became close with John. Even my days off, I'd stop and sit and come by the restaurant and just talk to him for a minute, and never sat at his table. But this one particular time, and I'd been there for a while, to get back to the thing that I feel impacted my life the most. These guys came in that used to visit with him, and they brought somebody with them. It's the first time I'd ever seen them bring somebody with them. A little short guy, and he was in a suit, and I assumed he was probably another restaurant owner. I don't know. I've never seen the guy before. And they go, and it's the first time that I've ever seen somebody sit at John's table. He sat right across from John. And they were having conversations between all three. And it was a funny conversation because John would look to these guys for answers or verification, but he never really talked to this guy direct until the end of the conversation. And I had never talked to anybody there except John. So I'm in the back at my bus station. I'm getting the bread warmer ready. I'm just getting things, and I'm looking out, just watching the table. It was just before we opened. Now, the restaurant where I was working, it was like in the center of this strip mall. And since John owned everything, there was a door that went to every shop down the way behind this building. So from my bus station, you could go left, go into the bar, go into the bakery, and travel down. To my right, you go to the hardware store, you hit the supermarket, and then you had a liquor store on the corner. Then there was a door in the back that led to the alleyway, and then there's a door that nobody ever opened. And one day I asked John when he was back there, and I said, hey, Mr. G, where does this door go? I know where all these other doors go. And he looked at the door and he sized it up and down. He said, what door? And I said, this door right here. And I'm trying to, it's always locked. Nobody uses it. And he goes again, and he goes, what door are you talking about? And I said, okay, I get it. The door that don't exist. We don't ask about that door. So these guys are talking to this guy. They finish up. They don't look happy. John doesn't look happy. Anyways, instead of going out the front where they came in, they start making their way back to the bus station where I'm at. And so I act like I'm busy. First guy comes through. The second guy is the guest they brought. The third guy stops. And the first time I've ever talked to this guy, and he says, hey, little Anthony. And I looked up at him, and he says, if that guy that we brought in comes out this back door by himself, can you put one between the eyes? I knew what he was talking about. I'd never messed with guns. I mean, back then and on the streets, we handled it like this. It wasn't drive-bys and things like that. And I'd been around a lot of guns. And for some reason, I just said, either I was scared or what, but I don't know why I answered. But I said, yeah, sure, I can do that. And he took out a .38 revolver, and he put it on top of the bread warmer, and he put a cloth over it, and he went into that room. They went into the door that don't exist. They went in there, and man, I remember my heart beating, and I remember I reached up on the bread warmer, and I grabbed the gun, and I pulled it out, and I remember going, wow. It didn't scare me. I felt so much power holding that revolver. Man, here I am, 13, 14 years old. I'm like, whoa. I put it back up there, And then it hit me. Oh man, what if this guy does come out that door? What if am I about to shoot somebody? Oh man. And all these thoughts are running through my head, and I'm looking at the door and I'm starting to panic, and my heart's going 100 miles an hour, man. And it seemed like forever, but it was probably 15, 20 minutes. And then that door opens, man. And I'm like, whoa. And that guy that gave me the gun comes out and he says, "Hey, little Anthony, can you drive?" I said, "Yeah, been driving my grandpa to the liquor store since I was like 8. And he said, "Okay, go over there to Big John's table. His keys are laying there. You know his caddy out front?" And I said, "Yeah." "Take that caddy, drive it around the building, and park outside the back door here. Leave the keys in the ignition, leave it running, and pop the trunk. And then I want you to walk back around to the front of the building, come back here and go to work. Can you do that?" I said, "Sure, I can do that." He stuck $100 in my pocket. Most money I made in a long time. And I went and did everything they said. Put the car back, came back in, went to work. Those guys were gone. I'd never seen that little guy again. I didn't see those guys for a couple months. Nobody mentioned it. John never approached me. It was like nothing ever happened. Business as usual. And
Wow.
my first taste of the Mafia.
Damn. And see, with our live show too, we have some questions and stuff, and we don't necessarily have to, go into each detail about like, the structure of your story and stuff like that, because I do want to make sure we get to some of these. But now that you have brought up this side story, there was a few people that have mentioned they wanted to know, like, so for your last name, it's not Italian. They Can you break down how you were a made guy without being full Italian?
Okay. Somewhere in the 90s, that was my time. My father is of Latino descent. My mother is of Sicilian descent. And in the La Cosa Nostra structure, I could not be a made man. I could be what you call a trusted associate. And I'm still, to this day, by East Coast families. See, there's 11 families across the country. You always hear about the 5 on the East Coast. On the East Coast side of, I probably would be recognized as a very trusted associate, even though I took the oath. I took the blood oath because I was represented by John Giovanni. In the 90s, the cartel was moving in on Italian mafia space, let's say. It's probably the last of the gangsters that I would know in La Cosa Nostra. Mafia still exists? Yes, it does. But due to surveillance, the RICO, and so many other things that have come in, security reasons, it can't operate the way it used to. And at my time, I was being groomed and I didn't even know it. And John took me in, represented me. I did a lot of things for them before I ever took my oath. I took my oath May 11th, 1991, one day after my son was born. They needed a liaison into the Mexican cartel. And my corridor that I was working, to sum it up real quick, was Davidson, Michigan, all the way to Juarez, Mexico, where I had met Lobo. And I had introduced one of the crime families, which I talk about in my book, to Lobo. But they would not meet with anyone else without that blood oath. They wanted a soldier, or they wanted a representative. Took my oath. I became, I guess, I'm one of 2,200 made guys. And I guess that was what I would call, for lack of better words, the connection to the cartel. Because it's all about, they say the mob didn't mess with drugs. That's a bunch of crap. Everybody who's in organized crime messes with drugs. It's money. And that's the number one thing that all of them work with, that we all work with, is money, money, money. And yes, that's how I became made.
Can you explain the ceremony at all, or I know you don't go into full detail, but like what kind of extent can you go into this ceremony?
I had to be represented by that's for John when we went to a place called Gaetano's Restaurant in Denver, which was in the Denver operation, was the Small Dome family. That's who I came before. They're not a very big family, very small. if they were to be liaisons, they would work underneath the Colombo family. If Colombo came across the country, that would be a friendly. We were in the restaurant. It was 11 o'clock at night. It's probably one of the first suits I ever had worn. We had a dinner, what you call a sit down. I was introduced as being married into a new life. That was the platform that was set. Nobody said, "Hey, we're going to make you a made man." There was no application. There was no join up deal. There was. John said, "It's time. I'm going to straighten you out. You're going to come with me. We're going to go. We're going to meet some people, and these are my brothers. These are my people. This is a thing of ours." And we went. I went to the restaurant. The elder guys, Chauncey Smaldone, he was way up in age, and that was another reason I believe that I became a made man. I'm not the only guy out there that's not Sicilian, that's not a made guy. I think the old guys were dying off, and they're running out of bad guys who they can trust. So guys were getting made. John Gotti Jr. was made by his father, but never voted in. So I was actually I had a record. I had a good criminal record. I had enough dirt and enough work to prove my worthiness, to prove that I could be trusted. There were several things that led up before I could even walk in that door. I went in there. I did not speak Italian. They spoke Italian. John translated for me. And I believe I sold my soul that day. It's like I would call it like a seance. Lights were out. Everything was done with candles. There was a book. It was a ledger, had names in it. It's the oath that you take is called omerta. It's a code of silence. They explained the rules. They went through a number of, I guess you would call articles on how I would answer, but in a quick form, I was to answer to the Mafia first, God second, my family last. And that was the order. So God worked for the mob. And it's crazy, but that's how it works. If my wife was giving birth, if my grandmother's dying at the hospital, if something was going wrong and I got a call to the table, I got called up, I had to leave no matter what the situation was and go and show up there. And my oldest son, was born a day before I took my oath. I mean, I was at the hospital and I actually you have to come to this. And so I went. So they break down the structure. You're not to work with police. You're not to talk to certain people. You're not to go in this district or that district. You can't work without approval. Everything would have to be approved. My earnings, they went over earnings. We went over how the structure where I would be paid, but you were always called to do something. And when you were called to do it, you had to answer to it. And do you accept this way of ours? Was one of the final sentences. And I said, yes, I accept that. They took my ring finger because you're being married into this. They pricked my ring finger. They put some blood in it. It was a card of St. Michael's. It was my card. And dripped the blood on that card. And they said, if you were to defile or break any of these rules, our laws, may your soul burn in hell. They lit the card on fire like the card in your hand. And then as it burns out, your hand's getting hot. They squeeze it together. Took my ring finger. I put it in a dot in the book. I didn't see the other names. Chauncey kept that book. And it says, and I was welcomed into the life. Welcome to our life. And then we had a dinner. We had a celebration till like 3 a.m.
Damn, man. They even had a book and everything, like, that's just what it was. I mean, those are some old school guys there, like, that because how old at the time were they? They had to have been really, like,
Uh,
like 80, 90.
he was Eugene, I think, was about to pass away He was the kind of the head of that deal, and I think he was in his 80s, late 80s. Chauncey, same thing. He was in the 80s. He passed away shortly after that. Then I was, I'd say my life in that life before everything went down was short lived. By the end of the 90s, I was on the run. John had died. I believe he died of a heart attack. A lot of my lawyer was part of all this. CJ Berardini, he got killed during my trials. There's a lot of things that get cleaned up too with the old guys that people don't know about when something goes south. But it wasn't like now I see the movies and I watch, and I would say if a movie was true to it, to that life, I would say Donnie Brasco, if anybody's ever seen that, that would be very real to that life. And A Bronx Tale would be similar to my role. It wasn't shoot them up and running down the streets and cutting people's heads off and putting them in somebody else's bed, or it wasn't stuff like that. We stayed within our own. We did business within the organization. And then the cartel came. And because my father was of Latino descent, I was accepted into the cartel role. And I started a gun trade. International gun trade was what I was under investigation for. Trading guns for cocaine. So the Italians, we were supplying the guns, they were supplying the cocaine. And that was a huge transaction, a huge role I got to play in that. And I was accepted because of my father.
Yeah, and I think from your book, maybe I remember you said there was like a side story with a guy from the Gambino family, like named Michael, and he was a part of this.
A nephew.
Yeah, of
He,
this.
he was somebody I had to introduce from one of the families who wanted a connection out in Houston, and it was a cocaine connection, and he didn't do too well at it. I don't know that he's around anymore.
Oh, damn. Well, so with him, you knew him just from he was someone on the East Coast kind of guy.
He was sent down, and to me, I don't know why they would have sent this guy. I call him Michael Gambino in the book. I
Oh,
changed some names. I don't know his whereabouts. I was not friendly with the Gambino family. I actually talk with Bruce occasionally. He's out in Canada. That life is done and buried. I've took my medicine. We can go into that later, but it's blood in, blood out. And I know there's going to be some questions about that.
who is Bruce?
Bruce is the one of the sole heir of Carlo Gambino.
Oh, okay. And you knew him from back in the day, or you just
No,
met him?
we connected about 13, 14 years ago.
Oh, damn. So he was involved with that life too then at one point, or?
Yeah, he's in Canada, and he was sent to Canada after his father died.
Oh, so he's a very kind of, he's probably older then, right?
No,
Old,
we're same age, just about.
really?
Yeah,
Is he out here doing shows or podcasts at all?
he's no, John Bruce stays very low.
Yeah.
I don't know if his passports have been cleared to come to the States. He's been working on some things, but
Oh.
we connected on the same with Daniel. Daniel, I can introduce you to Daniel Bonanno. He is Joe Bonanno's adopted son.
Oh, really?
Michael Franzese is adopted by his father. Well, Sonny is his blood father, I believe. There's things that go back and forth in that, but Bonanno, Daniel and I connected when my platform had started to grow, and I was sharing what God had done in my life and what he's doing in my life, and how long it took for me to take a leap out and say, hey, I was with these guys. I was in a mob. I was an enforcer. And they go in front of people and say that, and then say, but God changed my life, was a scary thing. I've already been shot. I got 3 different bullet holes in me. I got 7 stab wounds. I got a plate in my head. There were hits on my life, and it's all because of the Lord that I stepped out. There's a verse, and I used to say, because there's a lot of mob guys speaking out now. There's guys coming out of the woodwork.
Oh, yeah, a lot. And I seen the picture with you and Michael. You have Franzese. You met him as well too.
Yes, we actually were speaking the other day. I
Oh, yeah.
told him I'll be down in Vegas, and Um, any platforms or churches or people that you would recommend that I could run into? And I've decided to take this to another level and start sharing testimony and really
No,
step.
yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think it helps out a lot with what your story is because it just shows that look at how deeply you were involved in the criminal life, the mafia life, the drugs dealing, all that. Like, and there's still hope. Like you said, you got stabbed, you got shot, you got a plate in your head, just so deeply involved, and you were able to, you know what, I'm ready to get out and change my life around. It's possible.
It's all a miracle, and it was all due to the power of prayer, man. Nothing I did. I was sentenced. I was going to prison. I had 20 years minimum. I had a life sentence I was facing. I was under investigation during my trial for arson, racketeering, fencing, extortion, murder on 2 accounts. There was so much going on, and I had a lot of people praying for me. That's the flip side to this. I mean, on my days in court, my attorney gets killed. I get a public defender. My younger brother had come to know Christ before I did. He was coming in praying over me, and I was telling him, dude, you're voodooing me. You're doing something wrong. I'm feeling bad in here. I'm having nightmares. And I pled guilty to everything. I fired my attorney. Judge rehired her. I had to start over 3 times and just wanting to get to prison because I knew I was going to die in prison. And on a crazy dare from my brother, a challenge, he sat with me one day and said, man, he's always talking about Jesus every time he'd visit me. And the last visit I had with him, after nightmares, some scuffles in jail, I had got picked up in 2004 in October. My last court date was coming up in December 2007. So I had been on tour all over the country with my different cases. Coming to an end. I'm geared up to go to prison. I'm going to get killed in prison. Somebody's coming to get me. We were the largest ecstasy bust in the United States. There were guys that just went down and things that I was associated to. I can honestly say I never ratted. I never rolled. My name is on no discovery anywhere. I took my medicine and oh, shoot. I went down solid. Are you there?
Yeah, yeah, you're good. You're good. No worries, man. Just keep
Wow.
rolling.
Getting too excited and knocked my camera down.
Just shows you got emotion.
I'm blessed. They My case, because it had to travel. Now you don't go to court like that. Now if you're in court now, the judge can come in on the big screen, and you don't even leave jail. Court's in jail. You don't have to. They don't transfer. Safety, security, right. Easier and cheaper. Back then, your evidence and your cases had to follow you to every court appearance. So I think it worked out for I think it was a God thing, and it was still a human error thing. My brother, he came to pray for me one day, and I said, stop praying for me, bro. I don't want no Jesus in my life no more. Nothing, please. And he would say, I'll never stop praying for you, man. I said, well, don't do it in here. I'll disown you as my brother. I don't want to see you no more. And he was like, really? Really? And he says, why? And I said, bro, I'm glad you got the Jesus t-shirt. It looks good on you. You keep it up. You do real well. But see, I'm going to prison. He goes, yeah, what if a miracle happens? And I said, but there's no miracle going to happen, bro. I'm done. I want to hear about mom. I want to hear about you. I want to hear about your kids. I want to hear about everything that I don't have and I'm about to lose. And he said, well, I got prayer for you, and I'm going to make it there. Let's say you don't do life in prison. Let's say you don't do 20 years. And he's crying at this time. And I could see I know what that love is like now because I got it, but I didn't then. And he's like, let's say you don't do 10, man. Let's say you don't do 5 years. Let's say a miracle happens, bro. Will you give God one chance? Because I'm never going to stop praying for you. Will you give him one chance? Will you come to church with me one day, bro? If that miracle happens. I said, bro, if I live 5 years and I get out, I'll go to church with you every day because it ain't going to happen, man. See, I'm going in front of the judge and the prosecutor and the evidence they have against me. This is reality. This is real. And they're bigger than your Jesus Christ. But I'll take that bet. And if that makes you feel better. Long story short, man, I'm sitting out here right now.
Yeah, no kidding. The power of prayer and everything.
On the
And
third attempt, my cases were lost. They were. I was told that they were put. They've rediscovered them now. Trust me. I was told they were put on a train to travel them up to where I was at. Had gone from Dumas, Texas, and my final court was in Cripple Creek, Colorado, and then down the hill, Teller County, and then I was to go into Canyon City Supermax for the rest of my life. And the evidence hadn't arrived, and my little public defender went to work, and there were so many things you'd have to get this guy and read it. I cover everything in there, but I'm now. She had it set up so I couldn't be tried double jeopardy. Evidence against me. They had to let me go that day. I caught up with my brother, and I went everywhere he went, but I didn't get to know Christ right away. I didn't say the magic words and everything would be all right. I got out in January 2007, I'm sorry. And I went with him and I studied, and I was blessed to be surrounded by a bunch of just God-fearing men, and I learned about Jesus, and I read and I learned. And from January to May, and I didn't even know this till I was writing the book, honestly, May 11th, 2007, I accepted Christ as my personal Savior. May 11th, 1991 was when I took my blood oath. So I was like, see, when we put pen to paper, I started to realize where God had been in my whole life. And my soul doesn't belong to them. My soul belongs
no,
to God.
yeah, that's for sure. And it's just at the time you weren't thinking that at all, and you just had to go through some stuff and really just go through some trials and tribulations through life. And it took you a while, but you finally understood that. And like to think like if we're having a conversation with you, I just can't see you doing all these things or all this stuff you're telling me. But it's like you've evolved as a person, and your relationship has gotten better with the Lord and everything. So it's just the power of that. When you get that in your life, it seems to just really change you without you, I don't know, seeing all these drastic changes. You just kind of living day to day, and then you get to that point to where you are now and you're sharing your story and you get to reflect back and think about everything.
That's a great thing. If you ever want to learn about yourself, anybody out there, I'm no writer, man. I barely got out of school. I can't spell. My book is an easy read. It's the way I talk. It was reviewed by Rod Gonzalez and edited. A guy, an English major from Princeton. And when they called back, he said, "Leave it exactly how it is. I fixed a few spelling words, but you leave it. That's real, and that's your life." And I think back too about the power of prayer. I remember on my grandmother's deathbed, and she was my rock when I was little. And I went to see her in the hospital, and she was dying of diabetes, and she prophesized over me, and I didn't even realize it until I shared my first testimony at a guy named. His name is Nicky Cruz. I don't know if you've ever heard of Nicky Cruz. Nicky Cruz is The Cross and the Switchblade. That's the movie about him. He's one of the original gangsters out of New York. And a preacher went down, and David Wilkinson went to preach in the streets all the way from Little Kansas, and met Nicky Cruz, and Nicky had cut his throat and beat him down. This is a preacher. His gang with, I think he was the Warriors, is who he was with. The Mau Mau's, I think that's who it was. And anyways, they would streets of New York, man. He was a hardcore. He was going to go to prison. He'd already killed people by the time he was 15. He was hunting down people. This preacher would go pray for him and put hands on him, and he would beat this preacher down, and he would come back over and over again till one day he breaks, man. And the preacher's bloody, and he's crying, and he's praying over his gangsters, and they start accepting Christ. And he's like, Jesus would love me. It's a beautiful story. Nicky Cruz, he's still alive. He's out of Colorado, but he invited me to speak at his church. My very first testimony was in 2011, I believe. And I had been out since 2007, but there was no way I was going to tell anybody what I did. but he shared the power of the Lord, and and it kept coming back. And my grandmother told me on her deathbed, she begged me to follow Jesus. It was December 2nd. It was December 1st, 1989. It was the last time I had spoke to her, and she said, "Promise me you'll follow Jesus. Promise me you'll get right. Stay away from the gangs." And I was like, "Yeah, Mom, I sure I will." And whatever she wanted to hear, I said. And she told me someday, when my little Philip accepts the Lord, when Jesus becomes your Savior, you're going to tell the whole world what He did for you. And that's 33 years ago, man. And I
Okay.
look at her now and say, "Mama, if you could only see me now, because
Yeah.
there's no way I'd be doing this."
No, no, no way at all. I mean, if you would have told yourself that back then, no. You just can't see it. But again, it just goes back to just going through things and seeing different guys out now talking and sharing and seeing how powerful it is. And I don't know, it's just really intense, especially for someone that can relate to it or understand it or may have a family member that's going through it. So that's why I think that's why it's important to have that out there because there is people that are again involved with the life or have family members that's going through it and it's rough. But
Adrian, and you're right on that. I go speak in jails now. I get the opportunity to go in the front door and walk out the front door, so that's a pretty good feeling. But I get to go in and talk to prisoners. There's nothing more heartbreaking than to see a grandson, his father, and a grandfather all in the same facility,
yeah,
and to share with them. And I can drop down and speak with them, and I speak their language. So I know the Lord's designed a path because I didn't know what I was going to do when I got out, man. I'm a felon. I can't even pump gas. The Lord provided work for me. I do concrete. I've always had a concrete trade since I was little. It's a trade I had in the family. That was no pun intended, but concrete was my concrete company was actually named Goodfellas Concrete GFC
really. What a fitting name.
out here in Texas. And he's just taking care of me. And I didn't know what we was going to do. I didn't know I was going to write a book. And it's not all sunshine and roses, man. It's been a whole life of death and destruction. I am excommunicated from the state of Colorado. I can never go back home. If I cross the state line, my mama, if she passes away and I gotta go to a funeral or something, I will go to prison. It's a 20. Keep dropping this thing.
It's all good.
It's a $20,000 fine, and it's a court date to be determined. And
Jeez.
so I can't go home. So I've been asked many times by the district attorney's office out there
Mhm.
uh, that Samuel, would you like to come to the state of Colorado and address a few things? No, I'm not. I guess I have no civil rights there. My driver's license, no good, nothing. Um, and that's where my sons live, because of the mob life. My family's destroyed. My oldest son graduated high school in jail. Uh, I reach out to him so much, I'm asking for forgiveness because I ruined their lives, man. I wasn't there for them, my oldest and my youngest. Um, I was not nice. I'm I'm totally different, blessed person now. Um, my family had gotten investigated, even though they were not mafia associated. Uncles, aunts, relatives, some I've never met. The IRS came and tore them apart because of stuff that I had done. Um, there's just a trail of dirt, There's a lot of people's lives that probably hurt that I don't even know, haven't met to this day, who have hate or anger because the family member owed a debt. Maybe they were in some gambling situations, or you know, it's nothing like I seen on any movies really. That really. And then when it was all said and done, I didn't get a limo ride home from jail. The mom wasn't waiting out there clapping hands saying, "Hey man, you popped your cherry. Come on out here. You all right?" Ain't nobody done
Great job.
that.
Oh,
Um, and then when it was all done, I get people sometimes ask, "You should be dead." I mean, and the only way you can explain this is you'd have to ask another gangster in that life who's alive. Because I get a lot of people tell me who are not Mafia related, but they know more about Mafia than I do. And they're going, you should do that, or you ratted, or you did this or that. And I would always ask the Lord, I always tell him, I'm still La Cosa Nostra. I'm always going to be La Cosa Nostra, but I'm not active. Okay. And I would think, I don't like that answer. It's not real. And one night I was sleeping and I was praying before I went, and I said, Lord, I gotta tell somebody. How do I explain this to somebody? And a verse came over me in Proverbs 17. When a man's ways are pleasing to the Lord, even his enemies will be at peace with him. And I thought, okay, that's it. And that's how I've gotten to meet Daniel Bonanno. And I know he would love to come talk to you. He's got Joe Bonanno stories. He's out of I think he's out of Hot Springs, Arkansas. Or I'll hook you up. We'll talk to Daniel.
Yeah, him and maybe Michael too. Remember we were trying to get something and going with that because
I mean, follow up Michael and say, Mike, give Adrian a call. I mean, he's waiting for you. I don't know if did you guys connect to talk at all?
Through I believe the phone number. Yeah, we talked, or someone messaged me back. I don't know if it was whatever number you gave me. They texted and maybe they said they'll get back or whatnot.
That's Mike's number.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe we'll see, man. It's been a couple months, or maybe even 5 since we last talked. So yeah. What about the other Daniel? So he was involved with the Bonanno family.
Yes, yeah. Daniel's he's up in age now. I believe he's going through some stuff with his wife, but our connections came, and there's many other guys that I'm talking to now. And they're like, "Hey, Tony, did we really have it wrong? Is it God first?" And these are some of these guys that believe that. I would pray over my crew before a heist. I'd say, Lord, we got to go in here and take care of this, do that, steal this, or break this guy's legs. Please look over my guys and me as we go and do this. Take us in and say, thank you, Lord. And that's psycho when you think about it. But this is the mentality. And you've got to have that mentality to do some of the things we've done. I've got blood on my hands, but there's grace for it. And I've learned all it. And I love talking to these guys that are from the life. There's guys I talked to in the Aryan brothers. I think I introduced you to a guy named Fletcher Smith. We call him Casper.
Yeah.
He was in the pen and he's tatted up and gangstered out. And that's the mentality. And to have fellowship with these guys and say, hey, man, I got to be at Fletcher's baptism, man. I got to see this guy get baptized and turn it around. You see in their hearts where they came from and where they're at now. And that's how me and Daniel talk. And I'll be like, yeah, we actually had it wrong, man. It is the other way around. So that,
yeah.
But there's a lot of gangsters, young and all. Gangs are gangs. It's dirt, bad, and they all end bad. And there ain't no good life ending well or retirement plan in a gangster's life. I don't care if it's street gang, bike gang, whatever.
What of now that you're doing like live shows and stuff? Have you started your own like podcast kind of thing, or what are you doing now?
No, I do a Facebook Live on Tuesday evening. It's called Fight Nights. It's where anybody going through anything, whether it be good or bad, because you don't always have to call up with a bad thing. You can say, hey, man, this happened in my life today. I got a raise at work or something. My kid was born today. And we do praise reports. And God bless you. I think you got married recently.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Just last month.
Yeah. And so we have people call in for that. And I've got guys all over the world. So it's pretty cool that I've associated with. I haven't done anything and pursued this very strong because I got to make sure my heart is right. I got to make sure I'm in the right place. Like I'm saying, it ain't all sunshine and roses, man. I didn't know the devil existed till I accepted Christ as my savior. Then I found out I was working for the guy.
Right.
All the stuff comes. There's been cancer battles. And I'm aging. I can't shovel and move concrete like I used to. And the testimony had to start making its round. The book came out in 2018. And since then, it's just by itself. I haven't pushed nothing. I just by itself. I let it see what it does, and the Lord's starting to open up doors now. My phone is ringing. I don't know if you're going to be out in Vegas June 1st. I'm not sure.
Oh, that's right. I remember you for the people watching the Mob Summit where because I did a podcast separate from this one with Sal Polisi with maybe for like 8 or so months. So he told me he was going to go out there and they planned this for like maybe 6 months or so. But I don't know. Maybe if we were still doing the show or something, I would go out there. But I think they're pretty booked up and full now. But that's pretty cool that they reached out to you. So you're going to be there with Sal, Frank Calabrese. Is there gonna be any other mob guys out there?
I'm sure there's going to be a few. Some of these guys I've never met and heard about. I've only heard about them, and it's going to be cool to hear their stories. I won't be speaking, but my books will be on display there. My DVD will be on display. Um, so it's going to be interesting. I do know people that are going to attend that are kind of just wondering and see what we're doing. I've got some phone calls and I'm going to meet up with some guys. And then we've got another project. I picked up, let's see if I got one here. Sponsor, an Albanian sponsor. And we've got this energy drink that is coming into the States, and they're sponsoring all my stuff out there, and it's called Bomber. It's supposed to compete with like Red Bull or something, but I'll be carrying the label, and they're talking about some future stuff coming, and they just had 2 container ships arrive in Houston. So that's some other things I'm doing, other than that, just like you, I got to get up every day, every morning. I say my prayers, and I got to get out and go look for work. And I have a small construction company, and we lay a lot of concrete and work just like you.
Yeah, no, I mean, it sounds like you're pretty busy and just, being a regular everyday guy now and just trying to as well work on some other projects while, in the midst of everything else you got going on. And that's cool though. You'll have fun out there, I think, in Vegas next month. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I think that sounds like it would be a lot of fun. You'll have your books up there. And I think you'll meet a lot of cool guys out there and maybe, make some new friendships or something. I don't know what could happen.
we got some stuff coming. I'll be meeting with his name escapes me, but he's the curator, I believe, at the Mob Museum. Uh, I'm also getting inducted in Hot Springs, Arkansas, at the Gangsters of America Museum,
Oh,
and
okay.
we've just sent some. I used to wear coats, workout coats, when I was on the street, and on the back it'd say House of Pain, and my
So they're
glove.
gonna put that up there?
Yeah, it'll be up there. My replicas of the pistols I wore, and that's going to be a neat deal. I believe that's coming up this next year. That's
Damn.
hosting another summit. I didn't even know there was such a thing as a mob summit. I was like, you guys actually get together and meet in front of people?
Yeah.
And
Apparently, some of them do.
yeah,
I That's cool, though. I think it's a new they may have done it a couple times in the past or maybe for a couple years or so. I think I've heard around about it, but it's cool. There's an interest in it. There is a lot of people, the audience and stuff that watch it, and then, of course, there's a lot of guys coming out of the woodwork, like you said, and they have a story and they wanna share it, man.
yeah. There's some great stories coming out, and I've met some guys. I'll throw a couple of guys later actually that I've met here. That are here in Dallas, and he's now traveling. Robert Burali.
Oh, I know him. Yeah, I've interviewed him. That's
Oh,
cool.
okay.
Yeah, right, he used to his real name was Robert Engels at one point in New York. He was with the Gambinos. Yeah, you met
Yep.
him?
Yeah, we've talked on the phone
That's
and
awesome.
have some coffee. He's about 2 hours from me, and he's been speaking at some churches lately, and he's kind of going down the same route that I had went. And it's just mine's more into the prisons. That's where I feel like the Lord's drawing me, and getting guys working with a lot of foundations, Big Brother stuff, and keeping hopefully preventative maintenance to
Yeah.
get people out of there and away from that life. We've got a motion picture with actor, director, producer Tim Lowry out of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
That's a huge deal. They're doing my book right now is in the storyboard, so I've gotten to see a script that was written, and So that's a neat thing. I can't really go too far out what's going on with that, but that's a neat adventure coming up. So, Bullet to the Bible is going to be a motion picture. I'm very happy for that.
Yeah, that is really cool because I could see it totally being one just from the documentary. You've already had the whole outline for it for the book and the documentary that you did. I mean, it's there. I mean, you don't really have to put it. I mean, there's more work, maybe more stories that you could put in there, but like, I mean, for real, like that's already out there. Like, it's like a really good outline that you couldn't have been out there, better. It's like, I don't remember how long it is. I mean, the book, I went through it in maybe a week or so, just, with work and everything, but there is quite a bit of stories in there. Hope to think we may have lost him.
There we are.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got some lightning and stuff going on real heavy here.
Yeah, well, we're at that hour mark anyhow, so we better wrap up before we lose full connection.
Well, hey, Adrian, man, I enjoy talking to you, and I'm going to look forward to doing a lot of things with you. I'd like to see this investment itself really do well. It's a great name, a great tag, and there's so much. It's a deep name if you think about it. Uh, I want to see that do well. So if I can be of any assistance, brother, man, we'll do best we can over here.
Yeah, well, again, your story is very well motivational, and really, I hope to see you continue to grow and meet more guys and get your story out there. I'm glad to hear that you got your book's going to be a motion picture. That's going to be awesome, man. And that's good. Yeah, that we both will keep doing what we're doing, man. We'll link up again.
Yeah, if anybody would like a copy, they can always go to email me from the bullet to the Bible at gmail.com. They can always do that. And if you need prayer of anything, you're going through a crazy situation, something, man, my door's open. So you can always reach out to me via the email or hit me on Facebook. My Facebook is Philip Anthony Sainz-Hall. Jump in there, and Tuesdays are my big days on that. So.
Oh yeah, and anybody watching, I just want to thank you guys for tuning in this morning. If you
Thank you.
enjoyed this and you want to share it with someone, please do so. That'll get this video promoted more on YouTube and have people check it out and subscribe. And if you haven't seen, I put 2 other episodes up this week with former money counterfeiter Arthur Williams Jr. and then a woman that was involved with fraud as well. Her name was Clover Perez. So check them out. All you got to do is just go to the YouTube channel and they'll be the first videos that are up there. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Adrian.